Hi, Misha here, and you know my Argentine FAL Paratrooper. And if anyone who's followed the channel knows, I've been kind of looking for one more FAL for the collection. And last year, I did consider the lightweight carbine from DSA with the fluted barrel. In the end, it was cool and different, but no cigar. However, this year, DSA has come out with something else, limited production run, that is very, very tempting to me. So I thought I'd do a video explaining why. This is their so-called 5063 lightweight Paratrooper model. And it is not just based on the Belgian. There are actually a couple of Belgian parts in here. So we'll compare and contrast, talk about the FAL Para a bit. And yeah, I'll give my reasons, and more importantly, I'd like to hear what you think, pros and cons, in the comments below. As always, if you could, like, share, and subscribe. And I know people have asked about FAL videos. I've done several in the past, but we can always revisit. So let me know kind of what topic interests you. Receivers, metric versus inch, whatever, and I'll do my best. And as always, if you'd like to help support the channel so we can get shooting more, check out the link to Patreon. With that, we'll dive on in. Where to begin? Well, we'll begin with the DS Arms rifle here. Configuration is supposed to be very much like the 5063 version. That only a few automatics are imported back in the 80s here. And it's not just the folding stock, the other elements to it. And this actually has two differences of note from the original. And to be honest with you, for once, these are differences that honestly I kind of like. This isn't the sling it comes with. It does come with one metal mag, standard metric, and here's the sling it comes with, the manual. It's a perfectly fine modern tactical sling, but not my bag, quite literally. I just thought I'd bring it out. And it just comes in a hard case and usual stuff, so yeah, there it is, just for those who wonder. So the FNFAL did not have a folding stock model initially because of the system, the Recoil system. It had to be tinkered with. It came out shortly after the Type C was revealed in 1961 and the kind of next generation of FNFAL. But it became very popular. Now, the first folding stock model was the 5061, which had a regular 21-inch barrel, folding stock, and the redesigned bolt group, which we will look at later on. Next was the 5062, which had a shortened carbine length 18-inch barrel. Then we had this model here, the 5063, which had a further shortened barrel, just slightly, to about 17.2, 17.3 inches. It's like 438 35 millimeter, and that was specifically to suit Belgian paratroopers so they could easily get out of the C-119 cargo door without catching their rifle, because they slung them across. So they just ever so slightly shortened it. Otherwise, you had the combo device, which was introduced with the Type C style. They did lots of fun things. Folding handle. This one has the carry handle cut, but a spacer ring. Some were just not. And it has the so-called Holland rear sight, which is just a fixed 250 meter range with windage adjustment. Again, this is my Argentine version on a Type 3 receiver. Now it has this latch down here to kind of lock it in position. So you press it in. And you can just kind of thumb it open here, but I just prefer not to put extra wear and tear, so there we go. Actually recently saw this gun in the Swiss, or not Swiss, but the Sig Sauer M6 spear video. Type 3 receiver, which was introduced in the 70s, and unlike the Belgians, who went to a cast version in 1977-78, Argentina kept on forging theirs. This is a kind of unique Argentine lower that's steel. There was also the 5064, which was like the 5061, so 21-inch barrel, but it had a new aluminum alloy lower that saved quite a bit of weight, 6 to 7 ounces, almost half a pound, which always struck me as funny that they put the long barrel, 21-inch barrel, with the lightweight lower. Wouldn't it be more logical to put it with either the 18 or the 17.25-inch barrel gun? Oh well. But those are the 3 standard folding stock models that FN did. And that gets us to the DS Arms. Like I said, they market this as a 5063 lightweight. And we have the same style of folding stock, including the latch down here. But notice there's this hole. It's actually just kind of something you find on the Belgian 5063s, at least the later Type 3 style guns. I'm going to be 100% honest, I don't know why it's there. I have thoughts and theories, but I've never heard anyone say just definitively this is the reason, but I do know it is just one of those factors. So you just, got your latch here. This one's a little less stiff than the Argentine. And it locks open. So, one thing you may notice, both barrels have the cut here for the bipod, but this sticks out a little further compared with this jobber here. That's because, yeah, this is the shorter 17 whatever barrel. And this actually has an 18-inch barrel, so like a 5062. I actually don't mind that. Just partially to be a little different, and partially you get 18 inches is kind of really good for 308. But it is technically not clone correct for a 5063, so I wanted to point that out. Another thing that's technically not clone correct, this has the 5064 style aluminum alloy lower. That's the lightweight in the name. So essentially what DS Arms has done here is what I thought FN should have done from the beginning. Combine the short barrel with the lightweight lower and folding stock, kind of giving the best of both worlds. And of course it has the fixed range Holland style rear sight. Later on there would be the para rear sight, we also know, that has 2 positions, 150 and 250 flip. So either one, you can easily swap them out if you want. But this is really, it was done to be sturdy, and a lot of users really preferred this sight. It was just a simple fixed battle sight. And you'll notice this receiver does not have a cut for a carry handle at all. And it does have the folding handle. So what about length, about that spec? Well, on the Argentine here with the stock deployed, we're about 39, maybe a hair less, inches long. The standard 5000 model is about 43 and some change. And if we do fold our stock up, it actually saves us quite a bit of space, down to about 29 inches, give or take. And of course, this is going to be very similar. It's about 40 inches with the stock deployed, and about 30 inches with it folded up. As for weight, well, let me toss these on the scale and report back. Put them on the postal scale, and, well, the weight savings actually surprised me. The Argentine came in right about 9.5 pounds, maybe just a hair less. It kind of fluctuated between 7 and 8 ounces there. The DS arms with the FN alloy lower came in at 8 pound, 12 ounces, also sometimes fluctuating up to closer to 13 ounces. So we're looking at almost 3/4 of a pound different in weight. Alloy lower, it does save some weight, but I like the balance point it has. You can really tell. You can also tell that these are setting out in the sun because they're getting very warm very quickly. So, I don't mind that they did the alloy lower. In fact, I think that's really neat. And something else that's neat, this is an FN lower. And I confirmed this with DS Arms. One thing that kind of tipped me off, the pistol grip is kind of the shiny style, and it does have the notch for a cleaning kit in it. It didn't come with the kit. I just had a spare one, so I threw it in there. Most of your DS Arms US-made grips don't have that. So according to them, this is a Belgian FN lower assembly. That's, I think, pretty cool. Now, as for the barrel being 18 inches as opposed to 17 and a change, that's just because they don't make a 17 and a change inch barrel at DS Arms. They do a 16 inch, and they do an 18 and a 21. Could they have done a custom run of shorter barrels? Yeah, but it would have added additional cost. And for what? I get it. For a perfect clone, you could. Of course, someone who really wanted a perfect clone, take the barrel and cut it down. This is a good barrel. It's a 1 in 10 twist, and it is chrome lined and all that good stuff. As for the receiver, the things that are kind of at the heart of most FALs, as I mentioned, the Argentine Type 3 is a forged. So not all Type 3s are cast. The FN ones from the 80s were, but like your MBELs and your FMAPs are not. This, thankfully, is a forged receiver as well. Yeah, DS Arms is actually still doing forged receivers. They're not all cast. And you typically see them on their kind of higher-end specialty guns. So that's quite nice. And looking at the receiver, you'll notice we don't have a ton of markings. Not even the DS Arms. Now the serial is kind of cool too because it's the same style and prefix as the semi-automatic FNs from the 80s, the S15, yada yada yada. Obviously they're new serials because they have to. This one's quite a low, I think it's serial number 3, but they're only doing 60 of these, so it's going to be a low number either way. But I think that's kind of neat that they picked up the same range and they did it on a forged receiver, and Type 3 is appropriate for this. I have seen some Paras on a Type 2. That would have been really cool if they had done these on a Type 2, but I get it. You know, it is what it is. And when people think of a 5063 Preban, they're all on Type 3, so to kind of keep it with the same look. Yeah. So, where are our DS Arms markings? Again, it's simple, but they were very close. I popped the mag out. They actually put it in the mag well. Kind of reminds me of the old SAC Lada imports. Obviously, they have to be on the receiver and they have to be accessible without a tool, but that is perfectly legal. I don't know. I think it's neat. They couldn't do faux FN markings because copyright and all that, but since I did pop the mag out, this is an lightweight aluminum alloy mag. These are often thought of as paratrooper mags, and I could definitely see paratroopers using these. Quite handy. Here's a pouch with another one in it. But they were actually used by quite a few other nations as well. think West Germany used some, Austria. I don't rightly know. I'm not a super expert on the FN, FAL alloy mags, so if you are, let me know. But I do know that they were not made for the paratroopers. They actually predate the paratroopers, and they are quite light. And, you know, quite a few survive to this day and are in pretty good shape, so they seem pretty durable. So yeah, throwing an extra mag like this in a gun like this saves a couple more ounces, and I think that's kind of cool. Another key thing about the Type Cs, the combo device. Simple, effective, easy to make, lightweight. This is threaded on. It's like a 9/16, it's like a 13mm left hand. Left hand make a lot of sense if you're not using detents and lock washers, because the torque of your bullet coming out actually tightens. So this is another original FN part on the gun. Kind of has a dull finish. Internally, it's threaded for a blank fire device. I'm going to point this at you. You can see the notches there for it. It also has these ports which serve as a flash hider and to a lesser extent muzzle brake. Back here we do have the slot for a 22mm grenade ring, and it does have a spring ring on it. And then of course on the bottom we have this tiny little notch. Probably the cheapest but still very effective bayonet lug known to man. And of course the bayonet itself is the same. The Type C bayonet is kind of a return to form with a true socket type, and there are lots of variations of this, but you have a synthetic scabbard with just kind of a metal throat, and you have basically just a tube and then a latch back here, and there's plenty of barrel to let one go on. It'll even fit the shorter barrel, but kind of you're getting right at the edge of it for sure. Hold on, there you go. So full intact bayonet lug. So good chrome line barrel, forged receiver, very nice lightweight gun. What else? What about the controls? Well, folding handle. Quite a smooth throw, especially for a new gun. But actually what impresses me, this is one of the best like military style triggers I've felt on an FAL. Again, I'm not saying it's a match trigger, don't get me wrong, but compared to others, it's just a lighter break. They all kind of have a pretty crisp break with not a whole lot of grit, but this one just really breaks nicely. So yeah, I like the controls. The safety, which of course is just a 2-position instead of 3, works fine. And then of course we have the later style takedown catch, the horizontal. Originally they were vertical, but for various reasons these gave troubles. So pretty much all the paratroopers I've seen have the horizontal, and even a lot of guns that might have originally started off with the vertical got the horizontal swapped in. Otherwise we have the kind of large foot bolt release, and then a pretty standard mag release here. Standard trigger guard, standard. So, as I said earlier, it took FN a little while to kind of come up with the folding stop model. On some guns, it's very easy to get a folder, like, the AK, and also, frankly, the G3. But, as I'm sure you know, the recoil system, recoil assembly, is in the stock activated by a rat tail on the bolt carrier. So, that's not going to work when your stock folds. So, kind of in a similar way to the AR-15 and its trouble getting a folding stock. But they didn't go the route of collapser. Instead, they kind of looked to the past. the FN49. So, got my catch tripped here because they can be a little stiff. And yeah, you notice there's, of course, no spring. I know a lot of you probably know this, but it's kind of a fun mechanism to check out. And this just comes out in a packet. I want to point out that you need a special cut receiver, not just for the handle, but also up here near the gas piston. There needs to be a little cut there in the receiver. And that's for the nose of this top cover, because this has a little lip that actually retains your bolt group itself. And back here we have this plate and spring. So you just kind of push it down and then that comes out. So it has its own unique bolt carrier without a rat tail. Instead it's got a hole. Although the bolt itself is just standard FAL. Now this one's a non-sand cut, which I kind of like. A lot of the previous DS Arms paratroopers had sand cut bolts, which is fine and maybe useful, but not really something you think about for the Belgian style. And then here, and this is where the FN49 comes from, we've got a major spring here. And then inside, we have two nested small springs with a guide rod. That 3-spring system was used on the previous model. You can see the inner spring there. And that's just to give it enough oomph for 7.62 NATO 308 with such a short throw. The standard model has quite a skinny spring, but it's quite long in the buttstock. Anyone who's ever had to remove one knows just how fun the buttstock removal is on a standard model FAL. When you put it back in, just fight the spring and latch it in. Now keep in mind it's just friction, so I always try to hold them together. It can jump out. It's pretty good about not doing it. It's not as bad as some guns, but yeah, it can. Got a lot of spring tension there. I'm just going slow and steady. This is actually a lot easier if you have the gun vertical and just kind of drop it in. Not dissimilar to a standard FAL. Let's just put on, just sometimes I like to just slightly squeeze the top cover. This is just again with any FAL. And you notice it actually it goes in quite smooth, and there's just a tiny bit of spring tension. And then you just snap her closed. Is the DS Arms version of the 5063, my sling keeps getting turned around, a keeper? Maybe. Really, really maybe. You know, it's not 100% clone correct because of the slightly longer barrel and the alloy lower. However, I've got a more or less clone correct one here because it's an Argentine. Has the steel lower and the Paratrooper barrel. So that actually makes them different. But not in a bad way. It's not like FN didn't do an 18-inch. It's just not what they sold in America. So it's one of those rare times when the not clone correct features don't, you know, give it any disservice, personally. Center length gas system, for what it's worth. I didn't mention earlier, but I figured you knew. But it definitely has a very classic look. I like that a few Belgian parts are used. I like that it's on a proper forged receiver, chrome line barrel, all those things. The stock locks up well. A lot of the previous DS Arms side folding stocks didn't have the bottom latch, which I admit for civilians is just more of an annoyance, more of a hindrance than a help. But if you're doing a clone, you know, hey. It does seem like it's quite a smooth throw, and as I said, I do like the trigger pull. It is very tempting at a time when I don't need to be tempted, but a lightweight gun, a lightweight FAL has kind of always intrigued me because I don't have any that have the alloy lower. By the way, do not do an alloy upper. It has been tried. Look up Williams. Enough said. What do you think? By the way, as I mentioned, it does have the bipod slot and cuts, so you could easily throw a bipod on here. Plus, technically, it is a Belgian pattern versus Argentinian. But pretty cool in my book. Remember when I was very first getting into FALs, the concept of the Paratrooper, reading about the recoil system, it just super intrigued me. Because I couldn't quite envision how they got the recoil spring all up in here and didn't, bind up the bolt. And even if maybe these weren't as reliable as a standard model, they were still very reliable. Be it the 61 or 62 or 63 or 64, several nations used and even manufactured variants. For example, South Africa had a folding stock version, and so they definitely saw combat and use and whatnot. So plenty of history here, and just a kind of cool, unique model. And this is a pretty comfortable stock for what it is. It's pretty stable. I mean, it's just a tube as far as a cheek rest goes, but could be worse. I'm not sure I'd want to launch a rifle grenade with this, but hey. Oh, one other thing I didn't mention too is it does have a proper kind of squared off GR marked gas plug. Now your gas regulator here sets the exact hole size, but this is just the kind of on-off / disassembly plug, and it is pretty correct for what this needs to be. So they did look at quite a few little details. Bolt hole open. Of course, the non-reciprocating charging handle. Bolt release. So yeah, it was just a unique model that I think we need to take to the range next time. I don't have a ton of 308 because we've been shooting other guns, but I think we should at least put 50 rounds through it and see how it does. What do you think? And again, as I said at the top of the hour, let me know what other FAL content you would like to see. We'll try to do it. As always, if you could, please do like, share, and subscribe. And if you'd like to help support the channel, check out the link to Patreon. This is Misha. Catch you very soon next time.